All the while, Pennsylvania State Police ran the operation, and Colonel Christopher Paris from the department joins me now with more. Colonel Paris, congratulations on the capture of Cavalcante. He was on the run for 2 weeks. He was a known survivalist. He'd escaped capture already once in the Brazilian jungle. Had you ever lost hope you would get him?
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I would accept the congratulations on behalf of the entire team. They really are responsible for the fantastic work. I think that all along our faith was that we had the right team in place and we had the right assets in place. It was just a matter of time of continuing on and doing those things that are statistically successful, to your comments, the low tech as well as the high tech,
right,
and bringing it there.
It must have been very frustrating last night to have that heat signal from that DEA aircraft and then have a thunderstorm with heavy lightning roll into the area, forcing the aircraft to land and to lose the heat signal.
I would say that there are many challenges during an investigation like this, not the least of which is what the community is having to deal with and the stress that it puts on those people that are directly affected. So we're really lucky to have had the support. In terms of the frustration, I would say that the entire team never lost hope, and their entire focus was on continuing and pressing this matter forward to its conclusion.
So this morning, when you're able to creep up, how were officers able to creep up on Cavalcante as he lay in the tall grass with his rifle by his side? Did you take him by surprise?
We believe that we did take him by surprise. The rifle was within arm's length. He was completely proned out. I believe that he was within side of the perimeter where we thought he was after the incident the other evening, where he stole the boots and lost his prison shoes and then subsequently stole the rifle. There was an exterior perimeter that probably had about 160, not only state police, the majority of them were state police cruisers, but also our municipal partners. And it's difficult to envision what 160 patrol cars look like over a 3-mile by 2-mile perimeter. And once we believed that we had a very good idea of where he was, our long game was to make sure that we maintained that outer perimeter and then we pressed all of those areas inside. And in an investigation like this, it's critical to keep the pressure on the individual.
Have you been able to talk to him since you've taken him back into custody? Have you learned anything about how he survived these 14 days, where he slept, what he ate?
That interview was conducted. I have not been briefed on it yet. As the Lieutenant Colonel Bivens discussed today, that may have direct bearing on future charges. So I haven't been briefed on that, but I am told that we did interview him and he is safely tucked away where he will have the opportunity to serve out the sentence that the due process of our system afforded him.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people are wondering where on earth he's been these 14 days and how he was able to elude capture. You've got no information on what he did?
I would say that he was where we were looking for him. It's difficult, again, to conceptualize areas where, you're standing. You don't have the capability to stand several thousand members shoulder to shoulder and press into an area. There are tunnels, there are trees, there are water, bodies of water, creeks. There were large parcels of property in our first search area down by the Longwood Art Gardens vicinity down in the southern part of Chester County. And we really needed to be methodical and play the long game, if you will.
So what was his condition? Was he emaciated, dehydrated?
I think he was in fairly good condition.
Wow.
In terms of that has been affected. We had several people experience heat stroke, but when you think about it, there are a lot of places where you can go for water, not only ambient sources of water, but even a spigot on somebody's hose in the middle of the night. You can stay hydrated, and we think that he was really desperate, and we think that somebody who's motivated that way can be pretty resourceful, and we knew that all along, and it was just a matter of keeping that pressure on him.
Colonel, I'm curious, there was a moment at the press conference today where Colonel Bivens said some people intended to help Cavalcante but were prevented from doing so. Who are those people?
So I am not in a position where I can directly speak to that, but in an investigation like this, I can speak generally. What you want to try and do is identify those people that might be in a position to provide aid or support, either financial, emotional, or
but
physical.
You know of people who were trying to help him?
There were people that so far that we have come across not being intentionally cryptic, where we believe their intention was to help him. And that's part of an ongoing investigation where charges may or may not result. So that's all I can really say about that. But I can say that every effort was made, an exhaustive effort was made to make sure that any of those people who might be inclined to do so were not effective. And I believe ultimately that led to him being in that area even after he was able to steal the van. His desperation continued because he was not able to get out of the area. He was not able to get additional resources. And as frustrating as some of that was, perhaps by what the public had to deal with, that those were challenges that we had to overcome, and we had to play the long strategic game.
Right. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.